to have something very quick here today. I thought, what's a good way to make a shorter video than to do a tag? Now, I'm a bit late to this one. This one originally came out in 2017. Today, hold on to your books. We're going to do some Disney. So today, in case you can't tell, we are going to be doing the Beauty and the Beast tag. So this originated with Gilda's blog, and I actually found it in the Dreamland book blog, and in Dreamland they added a few additional prompts that I chose to include as well. This tag was created in celebration of the release of the live-action Beauty and the Beast back in March 2017, and that's a very dear memory in my heart. I had been in grad school in London at the time, and my friends came to visit me. We said it was to see London, but let's be real, one of the main goals was to see the movie together. Right. And we'll see how long the years last. So, first question. Oh, a guy that gets stoned. A villain you can't help but love. This one was really hard because it's hard to distinguish between the villain and the sort of anti-hero and morally gray characters nowadays. But for this one, I went with Jacques from the Carnival series by Stephanie Garber. It's like, you knew he wasn't a good guy, but I found something really intriguing by just how blatant he was about, I'm not gonna be the good guy. I'm cursed. Why shouldn't everyone else suffer for that? And really the source of the curse was really interesting to me. So, question number 2. Here's where she meets Prince Charming. Your OTP. This one was another really hard one because, while I like a lot of parents, I had a hard time picking, the one. But I ended up with Teddy and Liz from the Look series by Anna Goldberstein. Sadly, this couple doesn't really come together until the very, very end of the series, so they don't get a lot of time. But it was this really sweet, childhood friend. Teddy's, never really taken seriously about his interest in Liz, who's the society golden girl. And I really love the setting, which is turn of the century New York. I want much more than this provincial life. Number 3. A character who's destined for bigger things. When I thought of this one, I thought different routes I could take, but I thought of someone who's supposed to really be someone, not just your average everyday Joe or Jane. So what I decided for this one was I picked Kel from First Test by Tamora Pierce. Great series about this young girl who decides to take advantage of this new incentive to allow girls to train as knights in the kingdom, and wants to follow in the footsteps of her hero, the first recent female knight who actually had to hide her identity in order to be allowed to train. And Cal really has to go through a lot of extra hoops, and it's that idea of people having to prove they're twice as good to get even half the respect. And in this series, you know, there's a lot of magic, and Cal doesn't have any. She's just someone who trains very hard. And so that really stood out to me in this series, to have someone who doesn't have any advantage still be really successful and be someone who becomes their own hero in a way, standing up against bullies and defending what's right. Number 4. Be a guest, be a guest. A book that makes you hungry. This was another challenging one, mainly because books don't make me hungry. But the closest I think I came to was when I read Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This was a very sweet book about these two people who meet by happenstance and, you know, happen to know someone who knows someone that's a mutual friend. And they really become close and learn to rely on each other, and ends up being more than I thought. But the main guy is working at a coffee shop, and one of the main reasons he's kept around is because of his baking. You know, he's a really good baker, and all of his desserts just sounded really good. Alright. Number 5. Beauty and the Beast. Opposites attract. So for this one, again, there were so many options, but I went with Dimitri and Rose from Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. The reason I picked them was because how well they work together. So it's kind of that hesitant teacher-student attraction, but they don't really act on it while in that situation until the very end, when she's almost 18 and there's extenuating circumstances. So despite all of that, their personalities are really different. You know, Rose is very, like, intense and starts off as more impulsive and headstrong, whereas Dimitri was usually very calm and sort of hard to read. He's very poker face. And so having that contrast of Rose just more outgoing and, like, really out there and expressive versus more reclusive, silent Dimitri somehow worked really well, and it's written well that you just end up loving this pairing. Okay. So that's it for the original tag. Now, there are a couple more prompts added by Dreamland. So, next up. But there's something in him that I simply didn't see. A character who's more than they appear. For this one, I chose Colonel Brandon from Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. He's one of my favorite characters, and I love this book. I chose him because we start off seeing him as this slightly older gentleman who's kind of boring. He is very attracted to Marianne, but doesn't really seem to be making any progress, and she's going for the younger, more exciting officer. But over time, the story progresses and it's revealed Colonel Brandon is this really amazing stand-up guy, really good morals, very considerate to others, very generous. And that's really what ends up winning her over, is seeing that deep inside he's one of the best people you could meet, and she would be so lucky to have someone like him. Right. Next. I was innocent and certain, now I'm wiser but unsure. A book that changed you in some way. Again, this could be any book, but I'd say what really stood out to me was The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is one of my favorite books. It's very interesting because it's hard to place if it's set in any specific time. And it has two storylines, which is really interesting. I'm usually not too much of a fan of it, but it was done really well. So this antique rare bookshop person gets asked to do the biography of this famous author who's known to just lie and give everyone a different story about who she is. But she's like one of the most popular authors. And she reveals this like really gothic mystery. And it's really interesting, and you can't stop reading it. Like, you're really fascinated by what happens. And the voice itself, the way that Diane Setterfield's writes, it's very, I want to say, tinkling. It was kind of a way for me to sort of branch out from the rut I was in. You know, I admit even today I still mainly read young adult, like the teen books. But this was a way for me to branch out and explore other things, not be as intimidated or turned off by fiction meant for adults. Next up we have Gilda Beast, a book that you picked up because of the hype. Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. So, I read this book because I had seen the movie, and of course everyone was going off about it, and after seeing the movie I got really curious as to, again, what was changed between the adaptations, and I actually ended up really liking it. You know, it's this really intriguing story of deciding what matters most to you in your life and how you react to challenges. I think that in a lot of ways the relationship has very realistic crisis in terms of causing conflict between the main couple while not being overly tropey, and you can really relate to the main character. And last one, I'll Never Shake Away the Pain, a book that always makes you cry. This one was not hard. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I love John Green, and I love this book. and this is very popular, but obviously, you know, it's about these teenagers dealing with cancer. They're both battling their own fights with it. They don't really have any guarantees on what's going to happen to them, how long they have left, and what kind of quality of life they can expect. And, you know, it's just, it tears your heart out reading about these poor kids and the battle they have between hope and hopelessness. Alright, well that's it. This video just reached 16 minutes as I'm recorded. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off here. Thanks so much. If you haven't already, I hope you get a chance to read and find something new to enjoy.